Well, I've got to say I'm a little bit confused because I uploaded the video from yesterday's interview and it got absolutely 0 views. Well, not quite 0, I think about 3 views as compared to the one previously that was very popular, well over 1,000. So I'm going to try again with this one and we're going to see how it goes. If it remains popular, then I'll keep going with these interviews, and I've really kind of pulled out the best. So this is an interview with the restaurateur, the lady who's in charge of Mei Fair, which I found to be one of the most interesting restaurants that we reviewed in London. It's a Chinese restaurant, and it's run by an Indian lady called Samyukta Nair, and it has a Michelin-star. She also has a Mei Fair or something similar, I think, has opened in Dubai that's also got a Michelin-star. So it is a real top-notch, high-end, fine dining restaurant in London. It mixes cuisine. It has Beijing cuisine, Beijing duck in particular, dim sum, Singaporean food. It has different sort of Chinese foods from different areas and different diasporas of where sort of great Chinese food has come from. It all comes together in this Georgian townhouse in Mayfair, right in the most expensive area of London. I'm just going to let the interview roll, but just stay with it because towards the end she starts talking about why she thinks London has some of the best restaurants in the world, and also justifies why her, as somebody from India, is well positioned to deliver some of the best Chinese food in London, possibly in the world. It certainly has a Michelin star. Just watch it. It's really, really interesting.
Hey.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, Sam.
Sam,
I'm Minji. Nice to meet you.
How are you? Thank
Very
you for being
good.
with
Thank
us.
you for having us.
Of course, pleasure.
Yeah, thank
Welcome
you.
to Mayfair.
Thank you very much.
So exciting to have you here, really.
Yeah. So let me tell you a bit about why we're here.
Okay.
So we're doing a documentary.
Okay.
Just to trace the journey of the changing scenery of the Chinese culinary landscape here in London. So from decades ago, where you started with Cantonese dominated kind of restaurant, and nowadays there's so many Chinese regional restaurants are showcased not only just in Chinatown but across London. So you have regional cuisine from northeast, from Xi'an, from Hunan, from Sichuan, from Shanghai, and all of it. And then I had a quick browse of the menu here. I think Mei Fair itself is a tapestry of all sorts of Chinese cuisines.
Correct.
With dim sum, with mapo tofu from Sichuan, and then from Peking Duck from north.
Yes.
So that's why we're here, and I want to maybe ask you a few questions.
Sure.
And then first of all, I know you are the Indian origin.
Yes.
And why Chinese restaurant?
So first of all, I think Chinese food is very deeply appreciated by the world, but largely by India as well. And I think for us, our community, starting from Indian food, had deep roots, but we also managed to get a great appreciation from the local British audience, which has been quite wonderful for us. And giving those two communities, I think we really thought that being able to bring an experiential dining Chinese restaurant would be something that would be very on brand for us, but also something I deeply enjoy. A few things. I grew up in New York in the 90s, and and Chinese food was everywhere. Every second restaurant was a Chinese restaurant, not just from takeaway, but from mid-level and across the dining spheres, and I really enjoyed it growing up. I also went to college at Nottingham, and I studied in China. So I went to Ningbo, Nanjing, Hangzhou, Shanghai. At the time, this was about 20 years ago, 10 years ago at this point, which is a different world. It was just not what it is today, but I was just so fascinated by all the facets of China that I saw, which was quite small. And thirdly, I'm a sociology student. So I love the way that people look at cultural food, but not just from the eyes of which country it's in, to look at it from Singapore, from Hong Kong, and then London itself. So I think for us to have that global representation of Chinese food, not just through mainland China, but also its different diasporas, really gave way to A, Chinese restaurant, and B, to Mei Fair.
It's wonderful. And I want to talk about your menu. So how do you select what kind of Chinese food actually you are cater here in this restaurant?
So I think what we did is that we first of all built it around this idea of Mimi. Mimi means hidden in Chinese. And I think when we first started, the building next door was completely under construction. We were sort of hidden off. And then we said we're going to build it around this idea of this empress whose home away from home this is. And then she traveled across mainland China, Hong Kong, Singapore, and then comes to London. And that's how the culinary program touches upon these three sort of areas and these three locations, if you will, and then has culminated into the program at Mimi itself.
Yeah, and then the food itself, as I said, you have like a dim sum.
So the idea was to be able to have dim sum, to be able to, of course, do the Hong Kong style, the beautiful Peking Duck, to then be able to do the sort of Singapore chili prawns, and then bring it into London, which was quite sophisticated and palatable. And that's how the menu is broken up into appetizers, dim sum, of your signatures like the duck, and then of course the main course.
And do you think it's just London, which is such a unique place, it's open and willing to accept those kind of different flavor and different kind of regions? So that's why you think that the menu you're offering will have this kind of market?
I think the menu has been deeply appreciated, which is so nice. I think we're in the Michelin Guide, and we've just opened in Dubai as well, and very quickly within 6 months, 6 months have been put into the Michelin Guide there as well. So clearly that's a stamp of approval, which shows that the world is ready for regional food, the world. And also very quickly, you'd know this more than me, I think when you understand a cuisine in countries like India and China, which are so vast, have so many regions, so many areas, so many profiles in terms of flavors and spices, what's nice is once people know the top, they almost want to dig deeper in. And it gives us the opportunity, just being able to see it from this transcendental lens, to understand the cultural prevalence of the cuisine itself.
And then would you say that you've also observed or witnessed this kind of transformation of the Chinese cuisine here in London from Cantonese, and then that's why you have this dim sum here, but also the regional things?
No, I think people also, when you're in a dynamic market like London or Dubai, you have so many global influences, and you can't take away from the fact that the people who are foreign to a cuisine, you're native Chinese, and so you probably understand it a lot better, but for them there are certain touch points that feel familiar. They might really enjoy dim sum versus knowing mapo tofu, for example, and maybe that's the first touch point that is exciting to them, but they come in for something that they know, and then while you're in here, you can expose them to things that you don't know. For example, like a lot of people know dim sum, I know char siu is such a big Chinese technique as well, whether it's the pork or it's in a duck or a different so barbecue is such a big important part of the Chinese culture, food culture. I think it's really important to be able to bring out these smaller details in a menu and present it to people so in a form that they understand.
And then for a long time, the Chinese food, like Cantonese style food, Chinese food, are associated with like fast food, the takeaway food. And now we have
this
restaurant now, Mimi Mayfair, and you have like fine dining, great decor, prime location.
Yeah.
Do you think this, things are evolving? So that's why restaurant like Mimi Mayfair are popping up and to demonstrate. To reflect the
I
changes.
can only speak for myself, in all honesty, and for me, I have a lot of appreciation for your culture, and I think it's very much layered like our culture in India. You've got a great, wonderful history, you've got a great design sensibilities, you've got so many brilliant influences that are there. It's not just, known in one dimension. I think what's really important is to be able to understand that it's also this multifacetism of your culture. It's not just the food. Food is a vehicle of culture in today's day and age. And I think what diners want today is not just this fast food, which is amazing and people love it in their own right, but I think they want to see the experience of it, How does it feel? How does it give you a sense of place? And for us, bridging that gap between imperial China and modern day London to give it that sense of space was very important.
And I want to talk about the fusion element in Chinese cuisine. I noticed that when I'm looking at the Michelin-star restaurant in London, Chinese restaurant in London, or Michelin Guide Chinese restaurant in London, a lot of those restaurants always have the fusion element. They have the foundation of the Chinese cuisine, but also they have a fusion element. Do you think this is very unique for the Chinese restaurant here, high-end fine dining in London?
I mean, I think when I went to China, the Chinese food wasn't very much similar to what we knew it to be or know it to be even now, and I think there is an understanding which it is a little more to cater to a foreign approach. I think that that's undeniable. But I think if you presented sort of Chinese food in its authentic style, the way I ate it maybe in Ningbo or like in Nanjing back in the day, it wouldn't feel as palatable. And maybe this idea of, which seems fusion, of course I understand that, is because only to be able to cater to taste buds of an international audience while keeping the ethos alive is what I would imagine. And I think for us that really has helped us in the way that we have done our menu structure and the flavors that we bring in. And we also want to be able to bring in like smaller plates, appetizers, you know, just really create this sense of ceremonial dining, which allows for a long leisurely meal of how it's perceived in the West, you know?
So a couple of days ago, when I was on this journey doing this documentary, and I talked to someone, they mentioned a statement. They said a statement saying that London offers the best Chinese restaurant in the world. And I'm here in this premium premises of a Chinese restaurant. So I just want to ask you, what do you think of that?
I think London has some of the best restaurants in the world, Chinese and otherwise. I think that it is the most dynamic, global melting pot of cuisine. And I think it's got this amazing intersection of people from different diasporas, not just Chinese, but also otherwise. And I think it is this cultural synthesis that allows for people like myself to be able to put out work that is interesting and multidimensional, and it gives us, just as entrepreneurs and food entrepreneurs, the opportunity to storytell. You know, for me to be able to have a fictitious Empress who's come on her travels and has got all these incredible touch points on her, fictitious journey, and this is her home away from home. I think, that to be given legs, you really have to have a market that understands that, and I think it's very well versed in cuisine and culture, and I think it's a pleasure to create for a market like this.
And in your opinion, what defines as a great Chinese restaurant? Is that stay true to its tradition, being authentic, or having fine dining experience, or being popular among the customers?
I think you have to really have a good concept. And I think you need to know what your concept is, because everybody plays to their strengths, and as you've said before, there are many different facets of cuisine which exist. And I think knowing what your skill set is and knowing what you're trying to hone in on is very important. For us, we wanted to have a residential style Chinese restaurant that allowed for, the maximalism to come in, but yet feels quite bijou and intimate. And I think for us to be able to capture China through a global lens of food, which is so important, because being Indian as well, the way our food is eaten outside India changes very much. And I think it's quite nice to be Indian and have a Chinese restaurant, because I feel like also our cultures are so similar, we're so layered, our values are so inherent in the kind of offering that we put out. I think understanding the entire food concept is super important to any successful entrepreneur. And I think most importantly, knowing your audience, who you're catering to, how much they're willing to sort of, divert in terms of what they know and what they don't know is also very important. And knowing your market. When we came in, I think we had the opportunity to create a brand that felt residential, that felt bijou, that felt bespoke, because it allowed for us to take a different point of view. And that's why the cuisine isn't just Hunan, Sichuan, Cantonese. It really is mainland China, Hong Kong, Singapore, as bigger Chinese centers of Chinese cuisine being brought to a global stage.
Mimi, we had this experience recently in one of the Chinese restaurants. It's a hot pot chain. So it's not going there. It's not about the dining experience. It's also about, it's not about a meal, but it's about the whole experience. Because the minute you walk into this restaurant, so you have this kind of snacks waiting for you, and when people are queuing, but also you have this kind of manicure, and then when you go there, you have this hot pot, and then you have people coming with the kung fu noodles, have a kung fu noodle dancing, and then they have a big celebration for birthdays. So people who want to go there for special occasions and for birthdays, they will go there, sing the songs, So for that, Haidilao, I think it's more than just meal. It's the experience.
Sure.
But now coming here to Mei Fair, I feel like that one is more like common day-to-day life. But then this is the upscale of this kind of experience. Would you agree for coming to Mei Fair?
I think going out to a restaurant like Mei Fair, people would want to come in and be made to feel special, and they want to enjoy something that makes them that is a sort of escapism. Clearly, we are in a really beautiful environment, but also just takes them away from their day-to-day life. And I think being able to give them food that they don't know how to cook at home is probably one amazing step. And for us, the duck, for example, we wanted to focus on the Peking duck, do the apple wood fired Peking duck. You know, it's got a 24-hour request because it doesn't get, there's only a certain amount of ducks that we're able to make every single day. And then the duck comes out, it's beautifully carved in 3 different stages. So it's, you've got the skin, then you've got the, you know, of course you've got the pancakes and the meat. And then it comes onto the table with this beautiful ceremonious tray that does like, you know, the celery, the ginger paste, we do it like how we do it in Hong Kong, you know, with the little sugar and the hoisin sauce. And there really is this beautiful ceremony around it, which is quite special. And I think things like that just delve a little deeper into the cultural element, which I think is quite nice. For Chinese New Year, we put up a beautiful wishing tree in the room. You know, we allow people to write their little cards on hangbaos, and they come in and they hang their hangbaos. So I think adding these smaller touch points that feel authentic to the culture is something that we take ourselves, you know, we pride ourselves on to do well.
And also, before you arrived, I had a quick tour around this premises. I think you have different rooms. You have a peacock room, you have the hall, you have a drawing room, I have a dining room. So this also a part of the experience when the concept you integrated when you're creating this restaurant.
Correct. We stumbled upon this beautiful Georgian townhouse, and we said we absolutely adored it, and we wanted to be able to make it into something which felt special. And I think, given that it was around this idea of this empress, and then it was her home, we really wanted to create different experiences that allowed for people to use the space in different ways. Very often, the room that we're currently seated in becomes an events venue. It's got its own dedicated bar. You've got amazing brands that want to come in and, you know, showcase things and, you know, host people and have soirees and have parties. Downstairs, you've got the peacock room, which has got the table of 8, which is a lot more family style, birthdays, anniversaries. So I think the space allows for it to be used in very meaningful ways, which is quite nice.
So in London, we have this high-end Chinese restaurant. Let's say Mei Fair, Hunan, Hutong, Imperial Treasure. So I think each has its own like feature or uniqueness. But I think for a Chinese restaurant to be popular, to be high-end, it also requires the top like chef.
Of course.
So what do you think London would attract the top Chinese chef to want to come here to be working in London?
I mean, I think for us, my background has been in hospitality. My family owned hotels for 25 years in India. So we've had an amazing amount of goodwill and pedigree with chefs, which is so nice to be able to use. I think the best way to sort of look at it is to be able to headhunt really the best talent that there is. And if you're really able to use people within the same market, which is what we did, I think you have to find someone who feels like they're adding value. And I think that's not just in terms of cuisine, but also in terms of the work environment, the culture, and just bring on things and perspectives that are different. Otherwise, we're all just going to be at that top 1 percentile of just the tip of the iceberg.
Do you think some of the top Chinese chefs want to come here? That's also because London had the soil of this kind of creativity, and then give you the freedom or the space to be
creative. Yeah, while creativity is very important, I think it's really the refinement which is so interesting, because you, like you said earlier, like you can go to Chinatown and eat the best Chinese food, but you know what? Not everybody wants to eat it in that light. You know, there is a sense of being able to have beautiful handcrafted dim sums in an environment that allows you to enjoy it. You know, it doesn't need to feel rushed or hurried, and I think that's something that we really want to put out there. That just because it is a regional cuisine, it doesn't need to be looked at in a light of just being quick and cheap and easy and fast. And there is a ceremony around it, which is so important to bring to the front. You know.
That's beautifully said.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
So final question. So if you were to use one sentence to describe what MiMi Mayfair is about, what would you say?
Well, it's an homage to the Chinese culinary crafts in a setting that feels like home away from home.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sam.
Pleasure. Really.
Well, that's it. I hope you found that interesting. Well worth a visit if you can afford it, and if you are in London, to try and experience what the rest of the world possibly regards as some of the best Chinese food in the world. Not necessarily in China. I think it's probably too mixed and caters very much to an international palate. I found it, as an Englishman, absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed the food there. Probably was my number one choice of all the restaurants we tried, though I am certainly not the best person to judge the best Chinese food.